Most people that take it pretty serious have 2 bows in case one breaks. You got a backup. But obviously you're a pack. I learned at a very young age through my dad's experience. He got stuck out in the snow one time with elk hunting. So, there's extra fire starters, there's extra food, there's extra water. All that stuff that you wished you had, I've always packed it.
Agreed.
Due to my dad's experience, which is also something I've taught my kids. If you're not prepared, it's too late to get prepared when you need it. If you don't have it, you're in trouble.
Absolutely. I know with my trip to Wyoming this year, I was packing in more weight than all the other guys, and they weren't even, they do that all the time. I'm like, I was packing in extra weight and everything. I had so much more food than they did. I was prepared.
Prepared. Yep. Obviously you definitely want a good pair of boots. I don't care what anybody says. Boots are probably one of the most important things because, man, if your feet are miserable, you're in deep trouble.
Yep.
For archery, obviously, it's a little warmer season, so that's different. Different gear than you would prepare for a Thanksgiving elk hunt,
right, or
something later in the snow. So it's kind of, there's lots of different gear for each time of the year and each season. So.
Yes, absolutely. And what about deer hunting this year? It sounds like we're probably going to have the opportunity to do that as long as we get the tags. What are some major things that you'd be bringing to deer camp with you?
So deer camp, well, I'm kind of plush now, so I have to have my camper, number one. But the reality is, I don't know about everybody else, but we really good in either deer or elk camp. We usually prep all of our food before we go, especially if we're not hiking in. We're taking, it's all homemade food. Yep. We're very blessed and very spoiled. But it's a typical, again, the hunting pack is completely full. Survival gear, etc. Really think the only thing you obviously set down your archery equipment and then take your rifle and make sure you've got a backup for that too. The deer hunt, it might be a little cooler, so I wear a lot of wool. I have some lightweight wool gear, and I also have heavyweight, but I like the quietness of the wool.
Yes.
And if the weather does get bad and it's snowing or raining on you, it sheds it off really nice. Some people are full camo. For rifle, I like my black and red checkered wool coat.
Tradition coat.
Yep, and orange backpack.
Absolutely.
Keep us safe.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's definitely important to be wearing orange during rifle seasons of any sort.
Yep.
I know that it can get a little sketchy out there sometimes. So
yes, it does.
With that, I know with archery hunting we'll definitely have more full packs.
Yes.
Than our rifle hunts. Usually with a day hunt, you just pack pretty much the bare minimums. You have about a meal, camel pack most likely, and some water. Just kind of the basics. You don't really need to be packing extra food, extra clothes. Most of that stuff will be fairly close to camp or a vehicle of some sort. Mm-hmm. So, with your hunting equipment, how do you take care of that every year?
So for me, when I get home, my pack stays in my house. I leave it indoors all year. I've got it set in a closet, so that way it doesn't get, we live over in a wet environment, so that way it's not outside collecting mold or the mice get into it. All my hunting clothes, my wife calls me a super nerd. So I have everything in totes. It's all labeled. For elk gear, I got duck hunting gear. I got, fishing gear, etc. So all of that stuff will come home, get it all washed. Obviously, your archery gear you want to do in the non-scent stuff, and then it's all packed in tubs, ready to go for the next hunt. So all I've got to do is grab my certain tubs. All my archery equipment's in it. I got my my extra equipment's in there, all my clothing's in there, everything's ready to go. So that, it's that there's prep before hunt, but there's also prep when you get home to make sure everything's organized for the next one.
Absolutely.
And if my hunting coat that I was just talking about, the black and red checkered one, I've had it since I was 13 years old.
Yeah.
And it still is in like brand new shape. I'll say I'm over 50. So if you take good care of your equipment, it'll last you a lifetime.
Yes. And so with that equipment lasting a lifetime, why do you prefer to do it that way? Why don't you go out and buy new gear, every year, every other year, instead of continuing to use the same gear, more or less, your clothing and stuff like that?
Part of it growing up, I'm not going to say that we were poor, but I'm going to say, my folks were lucky enough. They bought us usually, you got one nice hunting coat, and that one nice hunting coat was the only coat for hunting you had. Yeah. So if you didn't take care of it, it wasn't like it was going to get replaced.
Right.
So I guess for me, it taught me the value of taking care of your stuff. And then obviously when you get older, you can buy nicer equipment, but even then I would still take care of that nice equipment. And I'm a little superstitious. I actually had a duck hunting shirt that I wore, t-shirt,
oh my gosh,
long enough that on the back of it started ripping apart the camo. And I would still hunt with that shirt because I had killed so many birds while having that shirt on. And I actually killed several elk with it as well. So it's that, it's that what's meaningful to you when you're out hunting. There's, everybody has their favorite jacket, or, there's your favorite hunting hat. There's something that you have that is of value to you, but is also meaningful to you. Whatever that is, you just take extra good care of it so it lasts for as long as it can.
Right.
So with my shirt, I actually took it to a duck hunting trip. We had a fire, and I put it on the fire, and that's where it stayed, was right where we go hunting all the time.
Yeah, and that was just a few years ago. That wasn't very long ago.
No.
That thing had been through hell and back.
That thing had seen a lot of hunting trips. And when I say a lot, I mean we used to hunt a lot more than we do now. At least I did, because we were hunting for food for the kids and for our family. Now I'm fortunate enough to raise my own beef, like I said earlier. So now if I get something, it mostly goes to our kids. So, which is fine. Which I love to be able to give them the wildlife, the wild game and etc. that they get. So
absolutely. Another thing, kind of going into the harvesting section of it, what was harvesting an animal when you were young compared to when you were older? What was harvesting an animal look like for you? What was it out in the field? Was your family there, or when you got back home, was it a big family affair to have everybody there helping help clean,
Sure.
process the animal?
So, obviously there's different phases of life. So obviously when you get your first buck, it's just excitement. Let's be real. You're so excited. You get to shaking, you get your nerves going.
Oh, yeah.
And, and then you have your family there with you, or your loved ones around you, and they get to experience part of that with you. My first elk, I was fortunate enough to actually have, it was only myself and my grandpa hunting together, and he was probably 100 yards from me. We were in some really thick brush and couldn't see each other, but he heard the whooping and the hollering after I was successful shooting my first bull. And then, it's the same thing of watching having your kids go salmon fishing this last summer, and watching our daughter Carmen catch her first fish, and that joy, that excitement that she had.
Oh, yeah.
It reminded me of me catching my first salmon when I was little.
She's still excited about that.
And she's already taken the time off for this next year to go. So
yes, she is.
So there's different stages of life as to what that looks like. So obviously we always field dress everything out in the woods. As I got older, my grandparents got older, if they harvested one or shot one, we would actually go take care of it for them, get it back to camp, and then they would help us skin it and clean it up from there. and then get your game bags and stuff on it. But, they were at the age where they couldn't pack anything anymore, but they were still in camp. So,
absolutely.
And that was a privilege to have.
Indeed.
So.
And what was the processing like? Did you guys do most of your processing out in the field, like cutting up quarters, or did you take them home and?
We were fortunate enough that we had a game cart, and most of the areas that we hunted, we've custom made a game cart that was a single tired one, so we could get them out whole. So we always, brought them back to camp whole, hung them up, and then the only time we really quartered them was if we ran out of meat poles, which we did a couple times. We were very successful at our elk hunting, and so then you would quarter them up because you ran out of full-size bags. Right. More than anything, you'd have to quarter them. Yeah. But otherwise, then when we got home from the elk hunt, then usually everybody would get together and we would, cut and wrap the meat and process the hamburger and mix our own grind up and then go ahead and process it that way. Yeah. But again, it was mostly family doing it, or, like us, we would take it home, and my wife and I would process all the meat. Usually my parents came over and we'd process ours and then go to their house and process theirs. Yeah. So.
And was there any specific type of cut that was significant, like a backstrap or anything like that? Did you do any family meals, per se? An appreciation meal, I want to say,
Oh, right. Getting all together and having a meal together. And we were fortunate enough that most of our family lived in one town. So at that time, common meals together were pretty... it was pretty consistent, at least twice a month. Yes. That we were all sitting down and eating something. And it was actually the backstrap. And then what we always did in elk camp is we would soak the liver, and then we always ate that in elk camp. That was always our tradition. And then obviously not everybody likes it. So in elk camp, at least those that didn't like it could eat something else. But those that love elk liver, we'd sit there and eat. We ate the whole thing. Yeah. So... And that was kind of always our tradition in camp too, was to eat the elk liver.
Eat the liver.
We'd soak it in the water and some salt, and then we cooked up bacon, and then fried that elk liver and floured it, and then fried it in the pan with that bacon grease. And, it was delicious. I'm hungry now.
Sounds pretty good, man. Sounds pretty good. We're looking forward to. I'm going to be cooking up Kayla's liver this year from her buck, and I'm kind of looking forward to that. Yep. So.
Yeah. But that was kind of the processes that we did, with the family, and
Sweet, that's perfect. Well, what future hunts are you looking forward to? I know we talked a little bit about our archery elk hunt this year coming up, and then as well as our deer hunt. Is there anything specifically you're looking forward to those? We've talked about family time being in those. Are you excited to get back out there? I know this year we kind of talked about doing a backcountry hunt for elk, taking camping, and that'll be kind of your first experience with doing it on your back. Obviously, you've done it in Wyoming with the horses and such. Yep. But
yeah, no, we're hoping also in elk camp we might actually get my dad to come over and just go camping with us. Mm-hmm. So to have 3 generations in camp would be incredible.
That would be.
That would be, we've had duck hunting trips where we've had 4 generations in camp, that's incredible in itself, to be able to spend, have that many of us at one place it's also difficult to do anymore. Yeah. But that opportunity to get back out there in the woods, and I've told my boys and that I'd love to go and pack in a couple more times before I can't do it anymore, or it's just too difficult. But that opportunity to get away from the other people too. Mm-hmm. I've been 25 miles in on horse, and the only person I saw the whole time was the person, the people you were hunting with in your camp. And to get away from everybody is so surreal and incredible. Everybody should, if you can afford to do it, man, take the opportunity and do it and get away from the people. It is incredible hunting. Absolutely,
especially when you're hunting with people that are extremely meaningful to you, and that really just helps make the trip much more significant in a way.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. There's great memories out there hunting, with family. I know in Wyoming we were riding the horses up they've got basically designed trails. And we got off the trail for a while and we found an old, I want to say trapper's cabin, and the thing was maybe 8 by 8 square. And the roof was all caved in, but the old pots and pans and stuff were still in there.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool to find it in the brush. And just stuff like that I mean, how many people have ever seen it? Probably not that many.
Probably not that many.
The other, at least Wyoming, that's the places I've done the backcountry hunting. It was different to realize that you're not the top of the food chain, and to realize that the grizzly bear is out there, and you have to hunt differently. That just jumping off your horse and trotting off through the woods, you got to be a little cautious as to how you hunt that.
Absolutely.
But it is an experience to see that, and have your camp all set up and your food prep, 100 yards away from your camp, hanging in trees. That's a total different experience. And then in the trails in the morning, there's grizzly tracks in them every morning. And yet I've never seen one out in Wyoming in the wild while I was hunting. I've seen them there, but not while I was hunting.
Right.
But it's a different experience to know every little ridge you come up and over, there could be a grizzly bear on the other side of it. So it makes you hunt a little slower and a little more cautious.
Well, and nowadays you got wolves too.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that in that style of hunting you really got to keep your head on a swivel and
you do
keep your head focused. I mean, even the slightest injury in 25 miles can be a definite, it can be a significant injury.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we are planning a waterfowl hunt in the morning.
Yes, we are.
Are you looking forward to that?
Absolutely. Just to get the opportunity to go out and, hunt with my son and get out there. And if we get a bird, great. If I don't, doesn't matter to me, as long as we're spending time together and we're doing what we love.
Absolutely.
That's the most important part.
I know I'm looking forward to that as well. And,
me too.
We had some very successful waterfowl hunts earlier in this year.
Yeah, we did.
And we're still working on editing those in. So if you want to watch them on our YouTube page, we should have them uploaded here shortly. But we got a lot of footage to go through still. So
we got a lot of footage. So probably definitely more like probably February, 1st of February before that stuff gets out.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because we're still hunting too.
Yeah, and that the only time I've got to edit footage is usually after work, and I'm pretty tired after work.
Yep.
So the rest of the time we're trying to get film out in the field, and obviously now we're doing a podcast, so that takes up quite a bit of time as well. But we're trying to do this all and bring you guys in on the experience, because it's something that in my family, personally, obviously with my dad here, it's something that means a lot to us, and to have other people have those same recognitions out there is something that is hard to find anymore. So we really want to bring this out to you guys so you can, if you're questioning, are we the only people who do this? No. We're right here with you, and we enjoy every second of the journey, and and we're here to help answer questions and just get to talk to you guys, because the hunting community really is unlike any other, for sure. It's one of a kind, and that's just what it is.
And it's a family.
We all are, and
yep.
We strive for the same thing every year, and we work really hard for it.
Yeah, we do. And the other part of it is being ethical. Like this last year, I had a nice bull elk at about 55 yards broadside. He was walking. I mean, I could have cow chirped and stopped him, but I can't shoot 55 yards with my bow anymore. I can't pull it I don't pull enough poundage, so I didn't take the shot.
Yeah.
It's that making the right decision ethically while you're out hunting to preserve this for the next generations is really important too.
Absolutely. We experienced that same thing over in Wyoming this year. It was, those are moments you'll think about for a long time, but in the end, you got to pull did I do the correct thing? And if you can't think twice about it, then obviously you did the correct thing. And that's what being ethical is about.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So, sweet. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about here tonight? And
well, I got lots of stories, but we can always save those for another podcast in the future.
I think we might have to. We're running a little bit over 41 minutes right now.
Oh, that's a lot of editing.
That's a lot of footage, but you know what? It's worth it. And
it's worth it.
I know this episode we were mainly trying to do an introduction with you.
Yep.
So we'll definitely have a lot more opportunities for stories, and I'd definitely like to get into more in depth about your first, deer and elk and stuff like that. So we've got a lot more podcasts planned.
Sounds good to me.
Absolutely. So with that, we'll go ahead and close it up. I want to thank you for listening to episode 2 of the Trueshot podcast today. Please rate and review our podcast. For any questions, ideas, or interest in being a guest like my dad here, please email nwtrueshot@gmail.com. And remember, make your shot a true shot. Thanks for listening.